When we returned to the village, I recorded Mark's gospel in my own voice for the Pitahas to listen to. I then brought in a wind-up tape recorder to play the recording, and I taught the Pitahas how to use it, which, surprisingly enough, some of the children did. Karen and I left the village and returned a few weeks later. The people were still listening to the gospel, with children cranking the recorder. I was initially quite excited about this until it became clear that the only part of the book that they paid attention to was the beheading of John the Baptist. Wow, they cut off his head. Play that again. Perhaps they weren't listening to the whole gospel because of my accent, I thought. To solve this problem, we decided to have a Pitaha man record the translation on tape. I would say a line, and then he would repeat it after me as naturally as possible. When it was all done, we had a studio add music and sound effects, in addition to professionally editing the tape. We thought it sounded great. We had multiple copies made and purchased more hand-cranked cassette players. Within a few days, Pitahas were playing the translation several hours a day. We were sure that with this new tool, we would now be successful in converting the Pitahas. The recorders had hard green plastic cases with yellow handles. The first time I showed a Pitaha how to use one, I sat by Aupisi, whom I was just getting to know, and showed him how to crank slowly to keep the electric power steady. We listened. He smiled and said that he liked it. I felt good and got up and left him to listen alone. The next evening, I saw a group of men sitting by a fire at a beach on the other side of the river from the main village, eating fish and laughing. I paddled my boat over to them with a recorder. I asked them if they wanted to listen. Sure, they all said enthusiastically in unison. I knew that they liked new things to break the monotony, and they did not disappoint me. I cranked a bit and listened to the beginning of the Gospel of Mark. I asked them if they could understand it. They answered yes, they could understand it, and paraphrased it back to me so that I could see that they did understand it. Night had fallen, and we were sitting on the sand by the light of their fire talking about the gospel. It was what I had always dreamed of. But suddenly, Dotor, one of the four men, asked me a question. Hey, Dan, who's that on the tape? It sounds like Pehuatay. It is Pehuatay, I answered. Well, he's never seen Jesus. He told us that he doesn't know Jesus, and he doesn't want Jesus. And so with this simple observation, the Pitahas signaled that these tapes would have little or no spiritual influence. They had no epistemological grip on their minds. But rather than give up, we supplemented audio recordings of Mark's Gospel with a slideshow of commercially produced pictures of New Testament scenes, Jesus, the apostles, and so on. The morning after one evening's show, an older Pitaha man, Ka'awe, came to work with me on the language. As we were working, he startled me by suddenly saying, "The women are afraid of Jesus. We do not want him." "Why not?" I asked, wondering what had triggered this declaration. "Because last night he came to our village and tried to have sex with our women. He chased them around the village, trying to stick his large penis into them." Ka'awe proceeded to show me, with his two hands held far apart, how long Jesus' penis was, a good 3 feet. I didn't know what to say to this. I had no idea whether a Pitaha male had pretended to be Jesus and pretended to have a long penis, faking it in some way, or what else could be behind this report. Clearly, Ka'awe wasn't making this up. He was reporting it as a fact that he was concerned about. Later, when I questioned 2 other men from his village, they confirmed his story. The difficulty at the core of my reason for being among the Pitahas was that the message that I had staked my life and career on did not fit the Pitahas' culture. At the very least, one lesson to draw here was that my confidence in the universal appeal of the spiritual message I was bringing was ill-founded. The Pitahas were not in the market for a new worldview, and they could defend their own just fine.